All right, so today we are talking about construction permits and what they'll look like in the Civil Service Portal and how to apply for them. So we'll be going over a lot today. Just like every other external workshop, we'll go over our launch overview, our schedule, our upcoming events, and then we'll start getting to the nitty-gritty. We have three different types of construction permits now. Right-of-way maintenance that uses our simple workflow, heavy crane, and right-of-way construction. And those both use our full workflow, so I'm going to combine those two together. Then we'll go over the application steps in the portal, how to apply for a construction permit. We'll talk about their new revamped pre-review meetings, how to respond to corrections and how to find documents, how to find the status of a permit, how to make changes to a permit. We'll do an inspections overview and how to schedule an inspection. I'll talk about the new, the integrated standalone curb cut permit process with SCCI, and then how to get help after launch. So if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat, or you can unmute yourself anytime along the way. And I always forget to do this, but I should introduce myself. My name is Melody Berry. I think most of you know me because I've worked on street use a really long time. My real job is I oversee our construction permits and minor utility permits, but I'm also the division lead for our Accela launch. So that's why you're seeing me in all the external trainings. Okay, so let's talk about why we're doing this. Why are we moving into Accela? I think everyone knows that Hansen is a black hole and it causes lots of issues. We have to work based on emails and a system that does not have any transparency to it. So Accela brings that transparency to the system and helps everyone know exactly what to expect. We have automated a lot of functionality that today requires us to do manually, and we've integrated some systems across the enterprise system as well. Today we'll be talking about one of those integrations, and that is the standalone curb cut permit. Okay, so SDOT has been moving into Accela for a couple of years now. Come not this weekend, but the following, this is our last implementation into Accela. So we already have our traffic, public space management, and annual vehicle permits in there, as well as our construction and storage containers and gardening permits. So this is the last big launch for SDOT. So today we'll be talking about right-of-way construction. That's today's construction use, our new right-of-way maintenance permit type, and our new heavy crane permit type. All right, let's talk about some critical dates in and around launch. So this Friday at 5 p.m. is the last time you can submit any new construction use application or any modification application by email. If you submit one after 5 p.m. on Friday, we are going to ask you to hold off and wait to do that in the Seattle Services Portal come November 9th. So please plan accordingly and get your applications in before 5 p.m. on Friday. Next Wednesday, our online application system goes down at 5 p.m., as well as we will no longer be accepting job start requests or off-hour work requests at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. And then on Friday, we close our online web form for payments at 3 p.m., and that is the end of your access to Hansen. So Hansen is semi-retiring on Friday the 6th at 3 p.m. Please note that we're also retiring our DOT util permits email inbox, and we'll be only using DOT permits from then on out. So the weekend of November 7th and 8th, that is when we are doing our automated conversion, and our last implementation goes fully into production. That means on November 9th, you will be able to access all of our street use permits from the portal. Please note that we are closed for normal business on that Monday and Tuesday to help us transition. But we will have an Accela phone line and email open if you need help accessing your converted permits. We're going to take a break with the holiday on the 11th. And then Thursday, the 12th, we are open for normal business. And that's also when our integrated systems with our side sewer and standalone curb cut permits go into production. All right. This will be in the newsletter coming out on Friday as well. So please plan accordingly and make sure you're getting your applications in before these cutoff times. All right. So this is our fourth external workshop. We're talking about construction permits today. We have street improvement permits on Friday and amendments next week. Also in the newsletter, these general Q&A sessions, I'll have those scheduled and the information about that in the newsletter that's coming out on Friday. If anyone has missed one of these and would like to view them, they are available here on our Accela updates website, as well as the PowerPoint presentation. All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk about our right-of-way maintenance permit first. This uses our simple workflow. This permit is really intended just for typically one-time short-term uses of the right-of-way. Typical uses under this permit would be a residential dumpster or storage container, building maintenance, so if you need to do some painting or repair of siding, and then our sidewalk or driveway maintenance use of less than 100 square feet. There are no use fees associated with these uses. It does use our simple review process. It does have a withdrawal, date change, and extension amendment available. The record ID is Sue Maint. Sue Maint. The document requirements is just our right-of-way impact plan. That's the new name for the work zone site plan or whatever it was. A couple years ago, we changed that name. And if the applicant or a financially responsible party is different from the owner, we'll also require a letter of authorization. Please note that we typically do not issue work greater than 90 days on this permit type. If you need a use longer than 90 days, or if your work requires a traffic control plan, you will need to apply for a right-of-way construction permit. But please note, if you're just doing the sidewalk driveway maintenance of less than 100 square foot, you don't necessarily need a traffic control plan, right? That's kind of a change in our process. Any questions on this new permit type before I move on? These are the process steps for simple permits. So we have our right-of-way maintenance and our construction and storage container that follow these steps. Please note that you can either apply for a residential dumpster or storage container on this permit type or our old storage and construction container permit that's already in the portal. Typically, these do not have secondary reviewers outside hub coordination, and we typically do not have correction cycles on these. All right, so that's pretty much all I'm going to say about right-of-way maintenance today, so let me know if you have any questions. Let's go ahead and head into our other new permit type, which is heavy crane. This is only used to install or remove cranes greater than 100 tons. The staging and operation of an already installed heavy crane is permitted under a right-of-way construction permit. So at application, I'll talk about this in a second, we will require insurance requirements up front for every permit. It uses the full workflow, and it has the withdrawal, date change, and extension amendments available. The record ID is Sue Crane. Sue Crane. I also want to make note that Typically, extensions do not have to get hub approval during the review process, but for heavy crane permits, that is a requirement. We will hub, if you're changing your dates of your previously issued permit, hub will need to look at those dates before we reissue that permit. Just FYI. Any questions on that? We'll go into document requirements for heavy cranes. So at application, we're going to ask for a right-of-way impact plan and the certificate of insurance. So as long as make sure your insurance is up to date when you submit this. Our insurance information is held at the owner contact level, similar to what we have in Hanson, but you guys actually have access to that. You can update the insurance information on your contact at any time, and there's a good help article about how to do that in the help center. So for heavy cranes, we require a limitability minimum of $5 million for heavy load mobile cranes and $10 million for tower and self-erecting cranes. Again, if the applicant or financially responsible party is different from the owner, you'll also have to upload a letter of authorization before you can submit the application. All right, other potential required documents, the traffic control plan. If you can upload this even if the system's not requiring you to upload it if you know you need it. The requirements around traffic control plans have really not changed for this type of work. You can, when we talk about entering the use line, I'll talk about how you can manually set the street category to arterial, and that will trigger Accela to require a traffic control plan, or you can just upload one if you need one. If you do need one and you didn't upload it, we're going to require you to do so at the screening stage. We have a new temporary no parking confirmation requirement. If you're impacting paid parking, we are going to require that you show some sort of proof that you've applied for your temporary no parking permit. Typically, the primary reviewer will search for this in Accela and confirm that internally. But if you already have it, please go ahead and upload it to save us some time. And then other required documents, nothing really different here. If you're a historic or landmark district, you may require certification of approval, holiday construction moratorium waiver, payment moratorium, all of those kinds of things. And one thing that's kind of new with Accela is this concept of a corrections response. That's our way of saying we want you to submit the street use comment sheet back to us with your responses. I'll go overall how to do that later in the presentation. Okay, any questions on heavy crane before we move on? All right, so let's talk about the big one. Right-of-way construction is today's construction use. We had to name it right-of-way because of not confuse people between STCI's construction permit. They went first. It's only fair. So our right-of-way construction permit is used to permit the use of the right-of-way for construction purposes, for the most part. We can also use this permit type to repair improvements of the streetscape if it does not meet the thresholds of a SIP and it wasn't required by the land use code. It uses a full workflow. It has all the amendments available. And the record ID is Sue Const. Sue Const. I didn't mention this earlier, but we are moving away from use codes and are moving towards use type descriptions. And so this is kind of a roadmap between what we used to call it in Hanson and what we're calling it now in Accela. For instance, driveways now explicitly say new/replace asphalt driveway or new/replace concrete driveway. We also combined our staging uses. So it's just one right-of-way construction staging use type. If you're in an inaccessible right-of-way, like your alley's full of blackberry bushes and traveling public can't get through it, you can go ahead and use this inaccessible right-of-way construction staging use type. I think everything else should look pretty familiar to you guys. We did go ahead and add our environmental remediation and exploratory excavation uses on here just because we didn't think it was always necessary for you to get a minor utility permit if it's all part of the same work. Right? Everything should be pretty familiar to you guys. All right, let's talk about document requirements for right-of-way construction. Sorry, I have to manage my windows. Right-of-way impact plan is always required for any use on our right-of-way construction. Site plan is required for some uses. So if you're installing scaffolding or transit facility, that is going to require a site plan. Does someone have a question?
Melody, there were a question in the question and answers, but I can't read them all. Are you able to read those?
I don't know where those are.
I know. It says, I'm trying to read it, but it's not scrolling.
Here it is. I found it.
Okay.
It's a different window. Okay.
I'm looking. Okay.
It's really hard to see these questions. Brett, you asked, will TCPs for heavy cranes still maintain only the installation work zone, or our surrounding areas need to be ID'd? Thanks. Brett, I'm not sure what you mean by that. It would just be, oh, you mean if there's other construction already happening? I'm assuming that's what you mean. It depends. I would say that depends. If there's already a construction zone and you're coming in on top of that, I highly recommend you show both. And then Mike asked, do we have to submit a copy of our insurance for each permit, or do you just need one on file? You have to submit it for each heavy crane permit, Mike. But if you already have it, you just need to have it handy and just upload it. Kind of like the letter of authorization. Okay, thanks, Judy. I was able to get to that after all. Why are there two chat windows? Is my question. Okay, traffic control plan is the same for every street use permit, except for our simple workflows. Technical plan, we do have a technical plan for some uses depending on what you're doing. Examples of these is structural calculations if you have a load on top of scaffolding, or potentially a geotechnical report if you're impacting a steep slope or something like that. Again, the temporary no parking confirmation, if you're impacting paid parking, we will need some sort of proof that you've applied for your paid parking permit. Other documents are the same as I just described, and the corrections response is the same also. Okay, so this is how to decipher our construction record IDs. By the way, I will use record and permit interchangeably throughout this presentation. Accela calls them records because there's more than just permits in Accela. But records are permits in street use. We only do permits. So the first section is street use and the permit type to kind of identify the permit type, and then the number string on the bottom. So again, we have SUCONS for right-of-way construction, SUMaint for right-of-way maintenance, and SUCrane, which is one of my favorites, for heavy crane. Okay, so for both heavy crane and right-of-way construction, these are the process steps. Please also know if you're in the utility workshop, they're the same for utility permits as well. So we have application, and then we have review screening. Our primary review is the street use reviewer. Our secondary reviews is anytime we have to go outwardly of our work group or outwardly of street use. And the most typical examples is traffic control plan review and Access Seattle. Review evaluation is where we'll consolidate all the reviews and either everything's good to go and we're moving forward and sending you to pay fees, or we're going back and asking for revisions, and that's when we go into a correction cycle. Typically on these permits, we skip the issuance prep step and we just go straight to issuance. If fees are due, and I'll talk about this a little later, you'll sit in issuance, but the permit won't get issued until you pay the fees. All right, so now we're about to get into the application steps in the portal. Don't mind me, just managing my windows. All right, so these are also the same as the utility permits. You'll first select your permit type, enter your project address, add your contacts, enter your project and location description, enter related information, add use details, at least one use line is required, upload required documents, review application information, just do a quick QA before you submit, and then you submit and you get a thank you confirmation. Sorry, that's my son in the background. Okay, so in order for you to apply for a permit, you have to have a portal account. I spoke more in detail about this at our Seattle Services portal overview. So if you were not able to attend that one, the recording of that is on our website. Hold on, I'm going to answer Bert's question. My question is specific to tower crane installation. Bert, you got to stop saying that other word. Do we need to identify areas surrounding the installation process, or are we staying with current plan that we only need to identify in the work zone? Hope this makes sense. Sorry, Brett, maybe you can just email me offline. I'm not really understanding what you're asking. So can you just email me and we'll figure it out then. Okay. So again, I'm just going to say it's complicated. We're converting our contacts just like SDCI did. We're converting your open existing permits. Depending on how many contacts you may have had in Hansen, and I'm going to say you probably have more than one, and if that information matches your portal account, is going to determine whether or not you're going to be able to see your converted permits, okay? So this is way too complicated to get into right now, but just know that we have a bunch of help articles on it on our help center. We're going to have a lot of help during launch to help you get where you need to be. And I also went over this in a lot more detail in the Seattle Services portal overview, so please go take a look at that. Right now, I'm just going to say, in order for you to apply for a permit, you have to be logged in to the Seattle Service portal, which means you have to have a portal account. Okay, so let's talk about things that you can do when you're logged in and when you're not logged in. So if you're logged in with a portal account and you're a permit contact or a delegate of a permit contact, you can apply for applications, you can withdraw an application, view and upload documents, respond to corrections, make changes to an issued permit, and assign and manage delegates. If you're not logged in and not a permit contact or a delegate, the only things you can do is search for a permit, view permit information, accept documents, make payments, and schedule an inspection. Okay, I'm not going to go in detail about delegates because it's complicated. If you're interested in assigning people as delegates, or you feel like you need to be a delegate on somebody else's contact, you can just go to the help center. You don't have to be logged in to go to the help center. Go to managing your account, and there's a video and 3 help articles dedicated to delegates. So please go there and figure out what's going to work best for you. Okay, so to start the application process, under the Create New section, click on the Permits-Street Use link. you're going to find the construction permits under the right-of-way construction section. Please note that the annual vehicle application and construction and storage containers are also there. But since those are already in the portal, we're only talking about these three. Also note that in our help text on the portal, we tried to do a better job about connecting our website information to the portal and vice versa. So these will link you back to our websites, and also our websites link you back to the portal too. So if you're unsure what permit type you need, please go to our websites and that'll help you determine what you need. So once you select the permit type you want, click on Continue Application. Today we're going to walk through our right-of-way construction. All right, so let's do an application page overview, just get you a little more familiar. Hold on. So the application page is going to look like this. All the different steps are going to be up here. Anything you haven't touched is going to be grayed out. Anything you have already completed will show in blue. And this step is going to show you what step you're on. Anything with an asterisk is a required field. You can always save and resume your application later at any time. To move to the next step, click Continue Application. I'm going to say click Continue Application a lot. Okay, so the first page is your address. So in the project address, if you apply for SDCI permits, you're probably very familiar with this. Enter the required fields and click the search button. If there's not an exact match, there'll be a pop-up window that shows up. Click the address you want and click Select. Please note that if you have a number street, it's for best results, just enter just the number, not the RD afterward. Once you have the right address, click Continue Application. All right, so let's do a contacts overview before we go into adding your contacts. So all street use permits require 4 contacts. Applicant, that's the individual applying for the permit. Owner is the property, business, or asset/infrastructure owner. I understand that's probably kind of weird for construction permits. The general contractor can be the owner of the work as well. The financial responsible party is the organization responsible for paying all related fees and charges. And the on-site contact is really the individual that street use will call to respond to events like storm response, stuff like that. So we try to make this as easy as possible to enter all these required contacts. If you select the Select from Contact button, that will auto-populate the contact information associated with the login account. So if you're the applicant, just click on the Select from Account button and it'll automatically populate. You can add a new contact, but I'm going to tell you to do this cautiously. We do not want to do what we did in Hansen and create a whole bunch of duplicate contacts. So before you create a new contact, please look it up to make sure it's not already existing. After you've entered one contact, you can use the same as function to just keep repeating the same contacts down the path. So if the owner was the same person as the applicant, you can select this and say it's the applicant, right? Otherwise, you can just do the same steps as you did up here. We have also optionally these additional contacts available: arborist, architect, authorized agent, contact, contractor, engineer, and vending operator. Please note the authorized agent and contact receive all permit correspondence. Okay, so once you've entered all your required applicants, you could also optionally add an additional contact. Once you're done adding all your contacts, just click the Continue Application button. Okay, now we get to page 3, which is our project information page. This is where you can enter a project name if you so see fit. It is required that you enter a project and location description. Please note that our help text up here tells you what we're looking for in that project and location box, and we also have a couple of examples for you to look at as well. Once you're done, you click the Continue Application button. Okay, now we get to page 4, which is our related information section. This is where you can enter related permits, either SDCI or SDOT. You can enter any sort of project information you want referenced. This customer reference work order purchase order field prints on the PDF version of the invoice. So if that's important to you, utilize that to your advantage. You can put in your estimated project duration. That helps us a lot know what the total impacts of your project is going to be. If you have an enforcement that you're responding to, you can add that number in here as well. The 24-hour contact name is really for the inspectors to utilize. That defaults from the applicant. If that's different, you can change that here, just free text. And the restoration party defaults to the owner. It's not a required field. So if you don't have restoration associated with your project, you can just empty that out. Oops, sorry. Once you're done with that, click the Continue Application button. Okay, now we're going to talk about use fees. I hope everyone knows by now that with this launch of Accela, we have updated our use fee methodology. So I'm going to talk about that before we go into how you enter your use information on page 5. Okay, so this table kind of shows you what our current rates are and what our new rates are going to be and what the difference is. So in 2019, with our release 1 of street use launch into Accela, that was the first time we've updated our use fee methodology since we had a use fee methodology in 2005. And so that was really our first attempt to really adjust fees based on where you're working, project location, and what type of mobility you're impacting. And so that was the first time we had additional mobility and safety factors for transit facilities, bike lane facilities, and pedestrian facilities. So we realized this amount was really not deterring behavior, and so we have adjusted those upwardly a bit just for when things are closed. Well, we did adjust it for impact as well. We also realized that we wanted to reduce the fees in non-arterial streets and alleyways, and so we reduced this neither factor down, and we just slightly increased the urban center factor here. We also adjusted the calculation to allow us to sum all closures per frontage under one line instead of having a line for sidewalk, parking lane, bike lane, travel lane. However, there are some nuances with that, and I'll go over that in a second. So this is kind of what it looks like in Accela. We have sidewalk impact. Your options there are intermittent closures, reduced width, closed, and rerouted. We have bike lane impact, travel lane impact. We have intermittent closures, some lanes closed, which means one or more lane closed, all lanes closed, which means road closure. Transit lane impact and parking lane impact. The other thing we did is we just rolled up all the other stuff into this other right-of-way impact. And that is trying to capture like gravel shoulders, planting strips, filler areas, anything like that. So our impact option definitions are here. Intermittent closures means short term, less than 5 minutes at a time. Closures less than 3 times an hour to stop the traveling public using a flagger or UPO. So if you need to boom something over the sidewalk really quickly, you can use an intermittent closure if you're within these thresholds. Reduced width for sidewalk, that's a partial sidewalk closure with at least 4 feet of pedestrian pathway per ADA. Please note that if you're in downtown, especially during the holidays, we will ask for more than 4 feet. For general purpose or travel lanes, reduced width means that you've reduced the travel lane, but vehicles can still move through that lane. So a typical example of that is the lane was 12 feet and we've reduced it to 11 feet. Rerouted means the traveling public has been routed to a different section of the street. So if they were typically on the sidewalk and now they're moving in the parking lane, that's what is rerouted means. Closed means ain't no one getting through it. No one is closed to the traveling public. Again, some lanes closed is 1 or more travel lanes closed. All lanes closed is a full road closure. We have a new section called work days. This is to allow you to tell us if you're working every day, Monday through Sunday, weekdays only, Monday through Friday, or weekends only, Saturday and Sunday. So that'd be extra helpful on construction permits. And one thing I wanted to point out is what our fee schedule, the language that our fee schedule uses is not the same language that's used in Accela. So I just wanted to note that and give you the definitions of what blocked and impacted mean in relation to our impact definitions. So blocked means closed, impacted means reduced width. And just a reminder, reduced width means that it's partially blocked, but the traveling public can still move around that closure. I also want to highlight that how you enter your use lines or how we'll adjust your use lines is based on what facilities have additional mobility and safety factors to them versus which ones don't, right? So although we can sum up all these closures in one line, we don't want to charge a parking lane at the same rate as a sidewalk. So I have some examples here to give you a visual with that, what I'm talking about. So example 1 is there's a construction project on a non-arterial street for 10 days, right? Our escalation rate has not changed. So since non-arterial streets do not incur use fees for the first 30 days, you can sum up all those closures in one line and there's not going to be any fee impacts to that. All right, so you can add closures that have mobility and safety factors with closures that don't, because there's no use fees. But if you're on an arterial street for, say, 60 days, that's when you want to separate out the two, right? You want to have a line that has the impacts with the same mobility and safety factor, and then you want to have a line with the impacts that don't have a mobility and safety factor, right? Because we don't want to charge a parking lane at the same rate as a sidewalk or transit lane. Okay, so just a reminder that you only have to enter one use line to apply for a construction permit. We will adjust your use lines as needed in the back office if we see that, you know, we don't want to combine a sidewalk and parking lane on our arterial street. We will do that for you, but I just want to give you some knowledge also so you can do that for yourself too. Because even though you only have to enter one use line, you have the option of entering more use lines. So this is what it looks like in the back office. From the use type, you just click this drop-down menu and select the use type that you want. Select the side of street where the work is occurring, the square footage of the closure, list all the impacts in this section here. All of them will default to none, by the way. Oh, and I didn't say this earlier, but if you do have a full road closure, in the side of street section, you want to select both sides. And that tells us that you're closing both sides of the street from a data perspective. Use start date is the same as today, duration, and then this new work days section here. Space will default to A, rate start date will default to 1. Expiration date is automatically populated when you enter the start date and duration. So once you're done entering at least one use line, click the submit button. And this is what it will look like when you get back to page 5 here. All right, so if you want to add a row, select add a row. You can also edit what you just entered. You can also delete what you just entered. So once you're done entering your use lines, click on the continue application button. All right, so now we're on the attachments page. So to upload a document, you're going to click this select button. That's going to pop up this window. You're going to have to select the document that you want to upload from your own personal computer. From the document type, you're going to have to select what document it is. I'm going to pause for a second because I just want you guys to really understand that the conditions that we are requiring for you to submit the application has to match the document type of that condition. So if you see a condition of a right-of-way impact plan, you have to upload a document with a document type of right-of-way impact plan for Accela to know that you've met that condition. Optionally, you can enter a description of that document. Once you're done, you can click save. And then if you need to upload another document, just click on select and you go through the same process again. Okay, so once you've uploaded a document, if you click the continue application button, but you have not uploaded all required documents, you're going to get this red banner here. This red banner is going to tell you what still needs to be uploaded. Once you've uploaded all required documents, this banner will turn from red to green. And then you're able to click continue application and move forward. I just want to point out that if you're applying for a heavy crane permit, you would have a right-of-way impact plan and a certification of insurance. Okay, so once you're done uploading documents, you're now kind of in the QA part of your application. You can tab back and forth of each page, review everything you've entered, make sure it's accurate. If you need to edit anything, just click on the edit button. Once you've reviewed your application, you feel like you're good to go, just check this terms of agreement box here and click continue application. The terms and agreements are up here for your perusal, something similar to what we've always had on our applications. Okay, and that's it. You now have your permit number here. You can open that permit number by clicking on the blue hyperlink. If there are additional documents required later in the permit process, it'll show down here. Like for instance, this says, oh, you need a traffic control plan. You can upload that at any time. If we get to the screening task and you haven't uploaded that, we're going to send it back for the corrections. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, any questions on how to apply for a construction permit? It is the same steps for all construction permits, pretty much all street use permits except for SIP. Okay, no, okay, moving on then. Let's talk about pre-review meetings. We have renamed our right-of-way management design guidance meetings to pre-review meetings. We have also revised our thresholds a bit on when we're going to require these. So we may require a pre-review meeting if your project exceeds 6 months in duration and there is an existing or upcoming construction project on the same corridor within a 1-block radius with impacts to the traveling public. And there we're just trying to coordinate the closure so we're not unintentionally for the public. And the project proposes to close pedestrian mobility for 6 months or longer without a 24/7 ped reroute. This is not required on non-arterial streets outside urban centers, urban villages, or hub areas. The project proposes to close a dedicated bus or other transit lane. The project proposes to reduce a major arterial by 50% or more. Obviously, we want to talk to you about that and see how we can minimize that as much as possible. And just note that these are the typical reasons why we would require a peer review meeting, but if we see that we want to have you guys have a conversation with you for other reasons, we can always require one as we see fit. Jerry asking how are applicants to determine existing or upcoming projects in a 1-block radius? Are applicants encouraged to visit .maps? .maps would potentially have that information. Yes, absolutely. Go to .maps. I'm not sure if SCCI is still using the in-progress construction map, but .maps is probably your best version. Okay, so if the street use primary reviewer does determine a pre-review meeting is required in the screening task. Oh, Jerry, I would also say that if you're in a hub area and there's a hub coordination meeting, that's also another way for you to know if there's other projects coming up. So if a pre-review meeting is required, the record status will change from in process to pre-review meeting required. When we will work with you offline in Outlook to schedule the meeting. And once we schedule that meeting, we'll change the record status from pre-review meeting required to meeting schedule. You can find the date of that meeting in your application under the date section on meeting date right here. All right, does that make sense? Okay, any questions on pre-review meetings before we go into how to respond to corrections? Okay. So corrections can be required either in the screening task or the review evaluation task. Please note that if it's in the review evaluation task, it does come back to the screening task because that's when our review process starts. If we send out for corrections, the record status will change from in process to awaiting corrections. So this is what it'll look like on your My Records page. To open the permit, you click on the blue hyperlink. And then this is what it'll look like from the permit itself. Here's the record status, awaiting corrections. You'll see that the review evaluation task has an asterisk. That means at least one correction has been requested. And then the screening task is shown with an hourglass, meaning that's in process. This orangey, yellow, reddish banner here will tell you what documents / conditions are required. To know more about what those are, just click this view condition button. So there's a connection between our conditions always correlate to a document. That's just how Accela allows us to ask for documents from you. Just a reminder that the corrections document is the street use comment sheet. The corrections response document that we may ask for you to upload as part of your corrections is the street use comment sheet with your responses added, right? So if there's enough comments that we feel like we want to see how you responded to all those comments, we will add the corrections response condition for you to submit that back to us. There's a really nice help article about this in the Help Center as well. All right, so I also want to let you know, like, if we do ask for the corrections response document, how do you find the comment sheet, which is the corrections document? So how do you do that from your individual permit is go to the attachments tab and scroll down until you find the most current corrections document. So you just click on this blue hyperlink and download that document to your computer. So once you've revised all your documents and you've added your responses in the comment sheet, you can go ahead and upload those documents in the same tab, attachments tab. You click select, this pop-up window will come up. You select the document you want to upload. Tell Accela what document type it is, and remember that document type has to match the condition, right? So if it's a corrections response, you have to tell it's a corrections response. Oh, I didn't say this earlier, but we also have a Bluebeam plan review integration with Accela. So it's really important that you upload only PDF documents. We don't require that from the portal. It's just going to make our plan review so much quicker and efficient if you upload PDF documents. So please, please, please only upload PDF documents. Optionally, you can add description. Once you're done, click save. If you need to upload another permit, hit select. Same process as you did in the original application. Okay, so once you've uploaded all documents that are required for the correction cycle, the record status will change from awaiting corrections to corrections submitted, right? And so this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so again, there's a really nice help article on how to respond to corrections in the street use section of the Help Center as well. I want to take a second to talk about documents that are required later in the review process. Yeah, Brett, you can ask now or you can email me later. So obviously we have some documents that are required at application. We have some documents like the traffic control plan, which are required at screening, right? Those documents are required for us to perform our review, but we also have some documents that are kind of done outside the street use permit process. So examples of that is the historic or landmark district certification of approval, pavement moratorium, holiday construction moratorium. If you're working in the UW-owned area by Rainier Square, it would also be the UW approval for that. Sorry, I'm just trying to multitask here. So documents that are due at the end of the review, we can add those at the screening task, but you won't necessarily be alerted that we added those conditions. Like we don't send an email out every time we add a condition, right? A document requirement. So I just want to let you guys be aware of that we could add that requirement at the screening task, or Accela could add it automatically. But you won't necessarily know that unless you go to your permit and see that a document is required. So if we get all the way to review evaluation, and we see that like the certification of approval from the historic district is not submitted, we're going to have to go out for a correction cycle, and that's when you'll be notified that something is due. Okay, so let's talk about how to pay fees. So if fees are due, you're going to get an email that tells you your permit has been approved. I don't know the specific language. I'm paraphrasing here. Your permit is ready to issue. I'm not sure what it says. You need to pay fees, and it'll send you to the portal. You don't have to be logged in to pay a fee. There's two ways you can get to it. You can either get to it by searching for the permit and just going to the individual permit here and clicking the fees page link here. You can go to your My Records page and find it there and just click on this Pay Fees Due link. So either way, please note that the status of the record will be waiting for payment. You guys are probably familiar with the cart in Accela. So once you do that, it'll take you to your application fees. We do not accept partial payments. So it's either you're paying all the fees or you're paying no fees. So if you're ready to pay the fees, click checkout. I'll also pause and take a minute that if you see your fees and you're surprised by the fees, like your use fees are way higher than you anticipated, we do not have a way for you to go back and change anything. You're just going to have to email us at DOT permits and tell us that you think you need something adjusted, and we'll go from there. So once you click checkout, it's going to take you to your cart here. If you have fees in your cart from multiple permits, you can edit your cart as needed. Otherwise, you just click checkout. So here's how to edit your cart if you have more than one application. If you want to remove an application from your cart, just select this remove button and then it will readjust. Click save and close to get those fees adjusted. All right, so that's going to take you to the payment. The portal only accepts credit cards. If you want to pay by check, you can still do that through our typical accounting processes. You will still be getting mail invoices for at least the rest of the year. So you can always just pay by check by sending a check to the accounting mailbox. But if you're paying by credit card, you do it through the portal. So you enter your credit card information in this section. If the billing information is the same as the portal account information, you can check this autofill box and it will autofill this section. If it's not, you have to just fill in the billing information manually. So once you've completed all the required fields, click Submit Payment. That'll send you a thank you confirmation and a link to print or view your receipt. So if you want to view your receipt, just click this print/view receipt button, and this is what your receipt will look like. Once you've successfully paid for the fees, your permit will automatically issue. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Okay, so that's for the fees that are due before issuance. We also have our invoice fees for our review time or inspection charges. You can pay for those in multiple ways. From your My Records page, you can just select this box. This top box will select all the permits, but only the permits that are actually waiting for payment will move into your cart when you click this Pay Fees Due. Right? You can also go to your individual permit like we just showed you. So there's different ways you can pay for your fees. Okay, we're going to talk about how to find the status of your permit throughout the whole permit process. Again, there's two ways you can do that. You can do it at the individual permit level by searching for a permit here in this Find Existing section, or you can go to your My Records page. Now, since this is an enterprise system, you can either tell Accela you want to look at just your street use permits, or you want to look at all your permits. Okay, so from your My Records page, the status is going to be shown under this status column here. This document required is what I was talking about earlier, is that when we're still moving forward with the review process, but we have indicated that a document is required, before we can issue the permit. These are other statuses you'll see. Initiated means you just applied for the permit. Waiting for payment means there's fees due. Okay, so from the individual record, you can get a lot more information. In the status tab, you'll see anything that's completed will have a green check mark. Anything that's in process will have an hourglass. If you expand a task, it'll kind of give you more information on, the history of the statuses and also the due date. If there are required secondary reviewers, it's going to show in the screening task after the screening task has been completed. So if you expand that, you're going to see that the primary review, that's street use reviewer, is still in process. And then the secondary reviewer for this instance, S.Traffic, which is traffic control plan review, is still in process. And this is the due date. Right, so this is going to give you a lot more transparency into where your permits are, where you're at in the permit process. Okay, so let's talk about amendments. So Accela's word for modifications is amendment. So we are phasing out the term modification. To make a change to an issued permit, again, there's two ways you can do it. Either from the My Records page, and you just click on this Make Changes hyperlink, or from the individual permit, you can click on this Make Changes button. It's going to send you to the same place. All right, so these are the different types of amendments that we have. I'm only going to slightly touch on amendments today. I'm going to go into super duper detail about amendments in next week's workshop, but today I'm going to do a high level. Our permit revision is where you can request a contact change, an address change, scope of work change. You can also request to cancel your permit. So that's the amendment you would use for any of those types of things. Our date change amendment is where you're just taking the same duration of time and you're moving it either up or backward, right? It's just you telling us that the original initial start date you gave us just needs to be adjusted. The extension amendment, I think, is very obvious. You're just extending the time that you need to work. So once you've determined what amendment you need, just click on it, click on that amendment type, and then click Continue Application. Oh, I will say just really quickly, you can also, if you need to do more than one thing, the only thing you can't do on a revision amendment is a date change, but you can do an extension also here. Okay, so once you've clicked the make changes, the amendment type, that's going to send you into a really short kind of application process. And then you'll finish the information that you want to enter. You'll click the submit button, and then that will be in process. And I'll go over that in detail next week. We also have this option called withdrawal. That's the only amendment type available before issuance. It's available by the between the time you submit and the time that applicant services starts processing it. So if you've applied for an application in error, you can quickly retract that by using the withdrawal amendment. So again, click the Make Changes button, select Withdrawal, right away withdrawal, and then Continue Application. That's going to remove it from our queue. Just checking the questions really clear. All right, so someone from SPU asked, if you're an invoice entity, how do you pay? The same way I explained about your invoice fee. So there's multiple ways you can pay. I talked about that in our SSP overview. We have worked with all SPU work groups on their approach to this. So you may not know, but someone on your team knows exactly their approach to this once we launch. Okay, let's talk about inspections by permit type. So I'll kind of just go over what type of inspections are available for each permit. Right-of-way construction has everything except for curb ramp and bond release. Please note that this is also by use type too, and I didn't get into that detail. Right, so not every use is going to have each one of these. Heavy crane has very limited, because that's just a very specific type of work. Right-of-way maintenance doesn't have all of them added either, because that's minimal impact to the asset. Notifications is your way to schedule inspections from the Accela Services portal. So based on the record type, for right-of-way construction, we have job start, site, restoration, markout, off hours, and pre-con meeting. Please note that off hours and pre-con meeting are asterisked because you can't ask for those through the portal, but I'll tell you how to do that in a second. Heavy crane has job start, site. Right-of-way maintenance has job start, site, and restoration, markout. And then they both have off hours and pre-con as well. Okay, I'm going to take a second and answer some questions. Okay, I think we're okay. If I missed a question, you guys, this Q&A chat is kind of odd. So if I missed a question, just feel free to ask it again. Okay, so again, that the off hours and the pre-con meeting have to be requested offline of Accela. Off hours is the same process as it is today. If you're working outside of the working hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, you need to give our inspections group 3 business days advance notice and email this email inbox here, telling them when you would like to work. Pre-con meetings, typically not done for this type of permit, but if you wanted to request one for some reason, just email your district inspector. Okay, so if you want to schedule an inspection, you will go to the portal. Just a reminder, you don't have to be logged in to schedule an inspection. From the individual permit, you would click on the Inspections tab here. Under Actions, you select Schedule. Please note that if you, depending on where you're at in your inspections, is what you'll see available to you. So the first one is job start. You won't see any other possible inspections being able to be scheduled until you do your job start. I went over that in a little more detail in our inspections overview. That's on our website for your perusal. Once you do that, this window is going to pop up. Go ahead and select the date that you want to start your job. Click continue. That's going to pop up this window here. Just note that this on-site contact is actually coming from the applicant. I know that's super confusing. If this is not the person that you want the street use inspector to contact, click this change contact link. That's going to drop down this section here and just fill out the information here. And this is the person the inspector will contact if there's anything needed. Once you're done with that, click submit. In this additional notes section, if needed, if you can add in information that you want the inspector to know, like time of day that you're going to, do your you want your forms inspection, time of day that you're paving, whatever is going on. You can just give them that information, and that'll populate on their work list and help them prioritize their day. So once you're done, click the finish button. All right, and a really cool thing is, hey, if you told us you wanted to start on X day and something happened and now you need to start on Y day, as long as you give us a 2 business day notice, you can reschedule that inspection. So if you originally told us that you wanted to work on June 23rd, but something happened and it got pushed out a bit, you can reschedule that job start by going to actions and reschedule. All right, any questions on that before we go into curb cut permits? All right. All right, so we did a really cool integration, and we want to let you know about it. So first, let's talk about curb cut permits. So SDCI has the authority on new or revised concrete driveway installations. SDCI determines the location, width, slope, and number of driveways. Concrete driveways can either be part of a SDCI building/construction permit or a standalone curb cut permit if no other work is occurring. SDOT, typically, we just are really issuing the use of the right-of-way for that driveway work. And then, of course, our inspectors make sure that the driveway meets our current standards and specifications. So our integration is really just around the standalone curb cut permit for this launch. Our current, soon to be old process is SDCI would issue a standalone curb cut permit. We would get notified through some report, and then we would issue a permit once you guys come to us. And then we would issue a permit, and then SDCI would have issued a permit. So you were getting 2 permits for these things. I talked about this at the top, but one of the opportunities Accela gives us is the opportunity to integrate and streamline our processes. And so really what we did with the standalone curb cut is we just got rid of the requirement for 2 permits, and we went down to 1 permit. So the new process is you submit from our permit. It was easier to do this off of our permits. If there is no existing building/construction SDCI permit, then we will route to SDCI for review. Once they approve it, we will issue 1 permit for the whole shebang. So again, it's just standalone curb cut permits. If there's an existing, if your curb cut is under the construction permit, you will still get 2 permits, 1 from SDCI and 1 from SDOT. I also want to point out that this new process will be for only new standalone curb cut applications on or after November 12th, right? If you already have an existing SDCI standalone curb cut permit in the HAPA, you'll still receive 2 permits until we kind of get through this transition. All right, so no matter what kind of curb cut permit it is, whether it's a standalone curb cut permit or if your curb cut is being reviewed under the construction/building permit in SDCI, you always need to apply for the right-of-way construction, new/replace concrete driveway. So when we say SDOT curb cut permit, we mean our right-of-way construction permit using the new/replace concrete driveway use type. Right? And this type requires a right-of-way impact plan, site plan, and SDCI site plan. And just a reminder that the record ID for these is Sue Const. Okay, so let's just go over this real quick. This is for the standalone curb cut permit. Any sort of curb cut permit, really, actually. So at application, we're going to ask for a right-of-way impact plan, a site plan, an SDOT site plan, and an SDCI site plan. Right? You cannot submit your application without those 3 documents. Again, we'll ask for a letter of authorization at application if the applicant or financially responsible party is different from the owner. And again, if you know you need a traffic control plan, please submit one. Otherwise, we will ask for it at the screening task. Everything else is the same as the other permits. So if you are applying for a curb cut permit, just note that in the page 5 of the application, you want to select the new/replace concrete driveway use. That's very important. The reason why we really need to do that is because it will populate this required section that SDCI needs not only to do their review, but also to populate the SDCI fee on our permit. So please just make sure that you're choosing the right use type for curb cuts. So these fields will need to be populated. This probably, if you're used to applying for curb cut permits in SDCI, this section should look really familiar for you. Okay, so once you've uploaded all the required documents, it should look like this. You'll have a right-of-way impact plan, an SDCI site plan, and a site plan. Okay, so just a quick summary of our new standalone curb cut process. Again, this new process will be in production on November 12th. That's a few days after our big launch. Again, we reduced the requirement for you to get 2 permits from 2 different departments to just getting 1 permit. One thing about this integration, though, is if we issue you a standalone curb cut permit and all of a sudden you need another curb cut, you can't do an amendment. You'll just have to apply for a new permit. Fees from both departments will be collected on the SDOT permit, and there's no SCCI inspections on the standalone curb cut permits. Okay, any questions on that? All right, so now I want to talk about how to get help after launch. So even though we do have an Accela phone line and we do have an Accela email, that will be coming out in our newsletter this Friday. Really, right after launch, our main focus is helping people get access to their converted permits, which is just kind of a big deal, and it's going to take a lot of work for us. So if you could, please do your due diligence and going to our updated websites. And, you know, we've done a lot of work around those to help you get the information you need. That would be your first step. Please note, we will also have a heavy crane and right-of-way maintenance website up before launch. And on each of our web pages, you can access the portal by on the right panel. This link here will be available. This is where the fillable application is. That is going away. And instead, you can link to the Seattle Services portal. We also have a lot of great information in our help center. You don't have to be logged in to get to our help center. These are the pages that are going to be really helpful for you right after lunch. Okay, so coming up this week, we have our SIP overview on Friday. Next week, we have amendments. And again, I'll get those general Q&A sessions scheduled and get that information for our newsletter coming out on Friday. Okay, you guys, my name is Melody Berry. If you have any questions, you can ask it now or you can email me offline. All right, well, thank you for your time, everyone. Have a great afternoon.